Hey guys, welcome back. So today we'll be reviewing fractions, decimals, and percentages. And when you are converting your fractions, your decimals, and your percentages together, these are all different ways to represent the same exact number. So for an example, if you have the fraction 39 over 100 as a percent, this is going to be 39%. And then as a decimal, this is going to be 0.39. So remember, if you're going from fraction to percent, there are three different ways that you can go from a fraction to a percentage. The first way is to do long division. So you would do 100 on the outside and then your 39 on the inside. And when you solve this, you're going to get 0.39 as your answer. But when I turn it into a percent, I'm going to multiply by 100 or move my decimal 2 places to the right. So this is going to be 1, 2, and it takes me right here. And this is going to be my 39%, which is what we have here. Another way that you can do this, so this is the first way here. The second way is to set up a proportion. So I have my 39 over 100 here equals x over 100, and I'm going to cross multiply. You cross multiply, and when you cross multiply, x is going to equal 39. And when you get your 39, you just turn it into a percent by adding your percentage sign, and this is going to give you the 39%, which is what we have here. And the third way, if you want to convert your fractions into a percentage, is to write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So for an example, I'm going to write an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So since I have 39, and this is this example here, since I have 39 over 100, 100 times what number is going to give me 100? That's going to be 1. That same number I'm going to multiply the top with, that's 1 as well. This is going to be 39. And I'm going to go ahead and take my numerator and turn it into a percentage. And this is going to be 39% is what we have here as well. And if you want more practice converting your fractions to percentages, I will link that video in the description box. So now let's look at converting your percentages to your decimals. Remember, when you are converting your percent to decimals, so I'm going from 39% to 0.39. You are going to move your decimal 2 places to the left or divide by 100. So you're going to do 2 places to the left. So this is going to be 1, 2. It puts me right here, and it takes me right here to 0.39. Or you divide by 100, which is what we did up here. And as you can see, you still get 0.39. Now, if you're going from decimal to percentages, you're going to move 2 decimal places to the right. So if you're going from decimal to here, you're going to move 2 decimal places to the right or multiply by 100. So let's say we have the decimal here, 0.39. I want to get my 39%. Well, we're going to move 2 decimal places to the right or multiply by 100. So this is going to be 1, 2. It puts us right here after the 9, and that's going to equal 39, which is your 39%, which is what we have here. So now if you're going from a decimal to fraction, you take the place value of the last digit of your number and you turn it into a fraction. So this is my tens place, this is my hundredths place. If I turn 0.39 into a fraction, this is just going to be 39 over 100, which is what we have here. So let's say we have the fraction 25 over 100. If I turn 25 over 100 into a percent, this is going to be 25%. And if I turn my 25% into a decimal, this is going to be 0.25. And then if I turn my 0.25 into a fraction, this is going to be 25 over 100. Now let's look at the same example. Notice here, 25 over 100, if you simplify this answer, because the number 25 goes into both the 25 and the 100, so 25 divided by 25 is going to equal 1, and then 100 divided by 25, this is going to equal 4. So even if you simplified your answer, you would still get the same answer. So let's say we did 1 over 4 this time. because my 25 over 100 simplifies to 1 over 4. And as a percentage, how do I turn 1 over 4 into a percent? Well, remember, there's 3 different methods you can use to convert your fractions into a percentage. So let's go ahead and use one of the methods. So let's do 1 over 4 equals x over 100. And I'm going to cross multiply. So 1 times 100, and then 4 times x. 1 times 100 is 100 equals 4x. Divide both sides by 4. 100 divided by 4 is 25, and that's going to equal x. So as a percentage, this is going to be 25%. Now, how do I turn my 25% into a decimal? Well, remember, if you're going from percentage to decimal, you move 2 decimal places to the left or divide by 100. So I'm going to move 2 decimal places to the left. This is my 25% here. So this is going to be 1, 2. It puts me right here, right in front of the 2. So you still get 0.25. And then now, how do I turn my 0.25 into a fraction? Well, that's also going to be 25 over 100. And then when you simplify your 25 over 100, this is going to give you 1 over 4. And remember, if you're going from decimal to percentage, remember you move 2 decimal places to the right or multiply by 100. So if I have my 0.25 here, and I'm going to my 25%, I do 1, 2. It takes you right here to 25%. So let's look at some examples. So let's say we have the fraction 3 over 5. I have a fraction. I need to find my decimal and my percentage. With my 3 over 5 here, how do I find my decimal? Well, we could do long division. So we have our 5 on the outside, 3 is on the inside. 5 does not go into 3. So I'm going to add my decimal, 0. 5 goes into 30, those 6 times. 5 times 6 is 30. 30 minus 30 is going to equal 0. So as a decimal, you're going to get 0.6. Now, how do I turn my decimal now into a percentage? So if I have 0.6 here, I'm going to move 2 decimal places to the right. So this is going to be 1, 2. It puts me right here. And you have your imaginary 0 here. So as a percentage, this is going to be 60%. So let's say you started with a decimal, 0.6. How would I turn this decimal, which is what we have here, how would I turn this decimal into a fraction? So let's do decimal to fraction. Remember 0.6, this 6 here is in the tens place. So this is going to be 6 over 10. So as a fraction, you're going to get 6 over 10. However, if you simplify your fraction, because the number 2 goes into both the 6 and the 10, your numerator is going to be 3, and then your denominator is going to be 5. Your final answer, if you simplify, is going to be 3 over 5, which is what we have here. Now, we have our decimal, we have our fraction. How do we get our percentage? And notice, since we have our decimal, our 0.6 already, I can just move 2 places to the right, and that's going to just give us the 60%, which is what we have here. So this is going to be 60%. So now let's say we started with 60%. How do I go from percentage to a fraction? How do I do percent per 100? This is going to be 60 over 100. However, I can simplify this 60 over 100 because the number 20 goes into both my numerator and denominator. So 60 divided by 20, this is going to equal 3. And then 100 divided by 20, this is going to equal 5, which is the same answer, same fraction that we have here and here. So now I have my percentage, my fraction. How do I get my decimal? Remember, if you have your 60%, if you want to get your decimal, you move 2 decimal places to the left or just divide by 100. In this case, we'll move 2 decimal places to the left. So 1, 2, it puts us right here. So you're going to get your 0.6. And this is the same decimal we have here and here as well. So notice all of your numbers are all the same. It's just expressed differently. Let's try 2 over 5. If I have a fraction, how do I go from a fraction to a decimal? You can do long division. So 5 divided by 2. You have your 5 on the outside, 2 is on the inside. 5 does not go into 2. However, 5 does go into 20 4 times. 5 times 4 is 20. 20 minus 20 is going to equal 0. So as a decimal, you're going to get 0.4. Now, how do I get my percentage? As a percent, you have 0.4. You move 2 decimal places to the right. So we have 1, 2, puts us right here. And you have your imaginary 0 here. So as a percentage, this is going to be 40%. So now let's say we started with a decimal, 0.4. How do I go from a decimal to a percentage? Well, we're going to move 2 decimal places to the right. If I move 2 decimal places to the right, that's going to put me at 40%, which is what we have here. And then if I have my 40%, how do I convert this over to a fraction? Well, remember, as a fraction, from percentage to fraction, it's going to be over 100. So 40 is going to be over 100. However, I can simplify my 40 over 100 because the number 20 goes into both. So 40 divided by 20, this is an equal 2. And then 100 divided by 20, this is going to equal 5. So if you simplify your answer, you have your 40 over 100 here, which equals 2 over 5, which is what we have here in our problem. Now, let's say we started with our 40% this time. How do I go from 40% to a fraction, which is what we just did here? So this is going to be 40 over 100, which equals 2 over 5. And if you have your fraction, how do you get your decimal? Well, since I have my percentage, I can just move 2 decimal places to the left. So I have my percentage here. So 1, 2, it puts me right here. So this is going to be 0.4. Let's try 1 over 20. How do I go from a fraction to a decimal? So we have our 20 on the outside, 1 is on the inside. 20 does not go into 1, so I'm going to add my decimal, and 0. Does 20 go into 10? Nope. 0 times, still doesn't go. What about 20 goes into 100? 20 goes into 100 5 times. 20 times 5 is 100. 100 minus 100 is going to be 0. So 1 over 20 as a decimal is going to be 0.05. And how do I turn this into a percentage? I'm just going to move 2 decimal places to the right. So we have 0.05, and I go 1, 2. It puts me right here after the 5. So this is just going to be 5%. So now let's say we started with the decimal, so 0.05. How do I go from 0.05 to a percentage? Just move over 2 decimal places to the right. So this is going to be my 5% here, which is the same thing we have here. Now, if I have my 5%, how do I move my 5% into a fraction? And you can do this 2 ways. You can use your decimal and turn it into a fraction, or your percentage and turn it into a fraction. So since I already have 5% here, this is going to be 5 over 100. And if I simplify my answer, 5 goes into both the 100 and the 5. So my numerator is going to be 1. And my denominator is going to be 20. And this is the same fraction I have here. So now let's say you use your 0.05 as a fraction. This is your tens place and your hundreds place. If you turn it into a fraction, this is still going to be 5 over 100. And then when you simplify your answer, you're going to get 1 over 20. Now let's say we started with the 5%. How do I turn this into a fraction? As a fraction, this is going to be 5 over 100. And then when you simplify your answer, this is going to be 1 over 20, just like we did here. Now, how do I have my percentage, my fraction, how do I get my decimal? Well, you move 2 decimal places to the left this time. So if you have your 5%, if I move 2 decimal places to the left, this is going to be 1, 2. It puts you right here. However, I have my imaginary 0 here, so you're going to get 0.05. Let's try 1 over 10. I have my fraction. How do I get my decimal? So you have your 10 on the outside, 1 is on the inside. 10 does not go into 1, so I'm going to add my decimal 0. 10, however, does go into 10 one time. 10 times 1 is 10. 10 minus 10 is going to equal 0. So as a decimal, you're going to get 0.1. Now, how do I turn my 0.1 into a percentage? So if you have 0.1 here, I'm going to move 2 decimal places to the right or multiply by 100. So we have 1, 2, it puts me right here. And you have your imaginary 0 here. So as a percentage, this is going to be 10%. So now let's say we started with the 0.1 as a decimal. How do I go from a decimal to a percentage? Move 2 decimal places to the right, and this is going to be your 10%. So if you have your percentage and you're converting into a fraction, this is going to be 10 over 100. And if I simplify my answer, divide top and bottom by 10, my numerator is going to be 1 and my denominator is going to be 10. So as a fraction, you're going to get 1 over 10, which is what we have here. Now let's say we started with my 10%. How do I go from my percentage to a fraction? And we said that's going to be 10 over 100, which equals 1 over 10 when you simplify. Now that I have my percentage and my fraction, how do I get my decimal? We move 2 decimal places to the left or divide by 100. So this is going to be 1, 2. It puts me right here in front of the 1. So as a decimal, you're going to get 0.1. So let's try the fraction 115 over 100. How do I convert this into a decimal? So we're going to do our 100 on the outside, 115 is on the inside. 100 goes into 115 one time. 100 times 1 is 100. 115 minus 100 is going to be 15. 100 does not go into 15, so I'm going to add my decimal 0. However, 100 goes into 150 now one time. 100 times 1 is 100. 150 minus 100 is 50. 100 does not go into 50. However, 100 does go into 500 5 times. So 100 times 5 is 500. 500 minus 500 is 0. So as a decimal, you have 1.15. Now, as a side note, this is like a little commercial break. Just notice here that the 115 over 100, notice this is an improper fraction. So if you did convert this over to a mixed number, this is going to be 1 and 3 over 20. So if you are dividing 1 and 3 over 20, to convert this into a decimal, you're going to divide your 3 over 20, and then you'll add your 1 and include it in your answer because your 1 here is a whole number. So if you divide 3 divided by 20, this is going to give you 0.15. And then you have your 1 here. So you do 1 plus your 0.15. This is going to be 1.15, which is the same decimal that we have here. So you can do long division, or you can divide and just use smaller numbers, which is what we did here. All right, so now we have our fraction, our decimal. So now we need our percentage. How do I get my percentage? If my decimal is 1.15, how do I get my percent? Remember, you can multiply by 100 or move your decimal 2 places to the right. So this is going to be 1, 2. It puts me right here after the 5. So this is going to be 115%. All right, so now let's say we had the decimal 1.15. So how do I convert 1.15 as a fraction? Well, you have 1.15. This is my tens place here in my hundreds place. So this is going to be 15 over 100. And I'm going to include my whole number in my answer here. So this is 1 and 15 over 100. And if you simplify your answer, because the number 5 goes into both my 15 and the 100, your numerator is going to be 3. And then your denominator is going to be 20. So if you simplify your answer, you're going to get 1 and 3 over 20. So as a fraction, you're going to get 115 over 100. Or if you simplify, you're going to get 1 and 3 over 20. So remember, these two are the same fractions. This fraction is the same as this fraction and is equivalent to this fraction. This is your improper fraction here. This is your mixed number, and this is your simplified answer. When you simplify the 15 over the 100, you get 3 over 20. All right, so now we have our decimal, our fraction. How do I get my percentage? So if I have 1.115, move 2 decimal places to the right, or multiply by 100, 1, 2. It puts us right after the 5. This is going to be 115%. So now let's say we had the 115% as starting. How do I get my fraction? So if you have 115, that's going to be over 100. You can simplify 115 over 100 because you divide top and bottom by the number 5. So your numerator, you're going to get 23 over 20. And when you solve your 23 over 20, you're going to get 1 and 3 over 20 as your answer. So as a fraction, you're going to get 1 and 3 over 20, which is what we have here and here. Remember, we did 115 over 100 because this is percent per 100 is what we have here, which equals this mixed fraction here. So now that I have my percent, my fraction, how do I get my decimal? Well, if you have your 115, you move 2 decimal places to the left. So 1, 2, it puts us right here in between the ones. So this is going to be 1.15 as a decimal, which is the same that we have here and here. All right, so now let's look at 17 over 100. How do I turn 17 over 100 into a decimal? When you do long division, you're going to get 0.17 as your answer. So 100 is on the outside, your 17 is on the inside. 100 does not go into 17. However, 100 does go into 170 one time. 100 times 1 is 100. 170 minus 100 is 70. 100 does not go into 70. However, 100 does go into 700 7 times. 100 times 7 is 700. 700 minus 700 is 0. So as a decimal, you have your 0.17. Now, how do I get my percentage? As a percent, you're going to get 17% because you are moving your decimal places 2 places to the right. So 0.17, 1, 2, it puts us right here after the 7. And that's where we get the 17% from. So let's say you had your decimals. So let's say you had 0.17. How do I turn this into a percentage? Well, we just did it right here. You move 2 decimal places to the right. So this is going to be 17%. Now, how do you get your fraction? And your fraction is going to be 17 over 100. Remember, you can do this 2 ways. You can use your 0.17 to get your fraction, or you can use the 17% to get your fraction. However, both of these will give you 17 over 100. Remember your decimal, you do your tens place, your hundreds place. So this is going to be 17 over 100. And then because we have 17% here as a fraction, this is going to be 17 over 100. Because this indicates this is percent per 100, so it's a 17%. And then let's say you had your 17%, how do I turn it into a fraction? We just did that. This is going to be 17 over 100. And then as a decimal, this is going to be 0.17. So let's look at these 3 examples here. So let's first look at the 7 over 20. If I have my fraction here, 7 over 20, how do I turn this into a decimal? So if you divide your 20 divided by 7, you're going to get 0.35 as your decimal. So your answer here is going to be 0.35. And if you have your decimal 0.35, how do you get your percentage? So remember, if you have 0.35, if I move 2 decimal places to the right, so 1, 2, or you can multiply by 100. This is going to give me the 35%, which is here. Now let's look at 20 over 100. Notice here, 20 over 100, if you simplify your answer, this is going to equal 1 over 5. Because the number 20 goes into 20 one time, and then the number 20 goes into 100 5 times. So if you simplify your answer, you would get 1 over 5. Now, if I have my fraction 1 over 5, how do I get my decimal? Well, when you divide your 5 into 1, you are going to get 0.20 because 5 here does not go into 1. However, on my decimal 0, 5 does go into 10 2 times. 10 minus 10 is 0. So as a decimal, you're going to get your 0.2. Now, how do I turn this into a percentage? If you have 0.2 as a percent, you're going to do 1, 2. It puts us right here. So you do have your imaginary 0 here. So as a percentage, this is going to be 20%. Now let's look at this last example here, 83 over 50. Notice here, this is an example of an improper fraction because your number on top is larger than the number at the bottom here. So if you're turning it into a mixed number, you're going to have your 50 on the outside and your 83 is on the inside. When you divide this, you are going to get 133 over 50. So this is going to be as a mixed number. We have 133 over 50. How do I turn this into a decimal? As a decimal, so you have your 1 and 33 over 50 here. When you divide, this is going to give you 0.66. However, we do have a whole number here that we need to include our answer. So 1 plus your 0.66, this is going to be 1.66. So as a decimal, you're going to get 1.66. And how do I convert this into a percentage? If you have 1.66, you move 2 decimal places to the right or multiply by 100. So we have 1, 2. It puts us right here after the 6. So this is going to be 166%. All right, so that is all for today, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.